Welcome to another episode of the Wolf and the Doctor podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Curry, alongside my co-host, Dr. John Devereaux.
And I'm really excited for, I say that every time, like I'm excited for the conversation that we're getting ready to have. But I think all of our conversations be pretty good. So let's just jump right in. And with our quote of the week, which is kind of going to guide our conversation. So the quote for this week is, 2 days of procrastination can destroy 2 months of discipline. 2 days of procrastination can destroy 2 months of discipline. And there's not an author for that quote. You know, I've seen it on this Instagram page that I follow. So I'm going to just throw that to you and you know, see what's your thoughts on that.
Man, I believe that, man, 100%, man. Like, when you think about it, it's like when you procrastinate, man, like it kills all the momentum that you ever had. Right, it kills like all the hard work that you put in, all of that. Right, I think I was talking about it on one podcast episode that we did like a couple weeks back, where you ever like leave for like a week vacation at the job, right? And then when you come back, you never pick up that momentum. It's like everything that you did, it's like just going out the window. Same situation, man. Like if you procrastinate, it's going to kill all the hard work that you put in, because it's going to be hard to tackle that same momentum, you know what I'm saying, and get back into your bag. So, yeah.
Well, for me, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum.
I don't see how, man.
I'm a huge procrastinator, but it works for me. Like,
yeah,
I prioritize things. So it's not like, you know, like, oh, something just popped up and then I got to get to it and I didn't know it, you know. But like for me, you know, I'll have a deadline that I'm working towards. And I might wait like to the last minute to get it done. But for me, it's like that added pressure of trying to race against.
I give you that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like racing against the clock helps me to be more efficient. It helps me to be more direct, I would say, more concise in my thinking. Yeah. And it sounds weird, but I just love the thrill of it.
You know what?
Can I get this done?
You know, I gotta agree, man. I think I'm the same way, right? Like even in college, right? At the last minute, I'll wait to write a paper, because if you give me too much time, come to think about it, if you give me too much time, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, all right, I got a couple of days to do it, right? But if you just like say, okay, Glenn, you got into tomorrow, like you say, it seems like everything just start to come, like all those, you know, workflow juices, like all that start to come, man, and you just start to think about stuff like, man, I didn't even know I was gonna think about that. You know, it's just like you say, that added pressure, man. It just does something to you.
Yeah, and I think I've always been like that. You know, just going back to like grade school, middle school, high school, and I mean, it just always worked out in my favor. I guess, you know, that's a slippery slope. I'm assuming, but it's just something that is just comes natural to me. I guess is just
so like you do that for like minute. You do that for like you know, just like for tests too.
For tests? Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, say, like you don't study at all. You wait till the last day.
I will say this. Throughout undergrad, I never studied for an exam. Like, I didn't, I never crammed for an exam until, like, when I was in my master's program. That was my first time, like, cramming. For me, I think this is what is important. Like, it goes back to, like, knowing yourself and knowing how you learn. For me, I wouldn't benefit from trying to, you know, do everything and like keep studying like the night before or whatever. But for me, I learn throughout the class period. Like I retain information from listening and viewing. So like even if I'm in classes, I rarely take notes. You know, I'll listen before, you know, writing things down, because that's how I memorize stuff.
All right, I got a good question for you then. Right. So, what do you tell your students? You tell them like, hey look, your test coming up next week. I'm gonna need you to study the day before. Or do you say, hey look, I need you to jump in front of this. Don't wait till the last minute.
That's one of those do as I say, not as I do type of situation.
Yeah.
Okay. But once again, it goes back to really knowing yourself as a student. Education in general, it's not a one size fits all. You know, everybody has different ways that they learn. Like my wife, she's a visual learner. You know, she needs to see it out in front of her, and that's what she, you know, remembers. Me, I'm an audio learner. So like if I'm listening in the class, when it comes time to take that exam, I can remember in the exact cadence that the professor was talking about certain things.
Yeah.
So that's how I retain information. So, I mean, I tell my students, you know, I don't tell them to wait to the last minute.
Okay.
But, review your notes and, you just got to learn yourself. And when you know yourself, you know what you can get away with and what you can't.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. Like, I think you got different type of people that learn, right? Like you say, you're more of a listener. Britt, she's more of a visual person. Me, I'm a hands-on person. Like, I
Hmm.
have to do it, right? Like, even if I'm writing the notes, I remember the way that I wrote it, like the
Yeah.
note, and that's how I remember. So I'm always like hands-on whatever I do. So yeah, I agree with that, man, 100%.
So when you throw that into like entrepreneurship and business ownership in the mix,
Hmm.
since you're such a hands-on learner, how was that when you actually went into, or how was it for you when you went into real estate?
Here's the thing, right? With real estate, it doesn't matter how good you are, right? If you pass the real estate test with 100%, it does not matter. All
Hmm.
that matters is, can you do the job? Everybody is a novice the moment they start and the moment that they get out there. So for me, it was the same thing. It was hands on. I think that's for everybody. Entrepreneurs, like, you can read all the books, you can read all the forums, all that stuff. But if you don't actually get out there and do stuff that's hands on, learn, fail again, learn, succeed, like, you'll never get to where you're trying to go. So for me, it was just like, man, throw me to the wolves.
So a question I have for you then is, when you start in like a new job, you tend to be really, attentive. You're probably not procrastinating as much as you
Right.
would in a situation where you're comfortable. So since you've been in real estate for these 3 years, and have you seen yourself start to procrastinate more, or do you still have like
You know what? No, look, I don't procrastinate, man. Dude, I'm still hungry because I feel like I haven't reached the plateau that I want to hit. So like, I'm never procrastinating. I mean, granted, right? We're all human, right? So there are moments where I'm not as productive as I would be, but I'm not necessarily like procrastinating. Like, I'm almost getting done everything that I put in front of me. Like, any goals that I try to tackle, and most of them are small goals, right? Because like I said, you tackle the small ones, and then eventually those small ones become the big ones. So I mean, for the small ones, man, I'm hitting those left and right, man, because I don't waste time. Like, I don't have time to procrastinate.
but you can still procrastinate and reach your goals. Like that's the whole thing. Like with procrastination, it's like you're getting it done. You just getting it done at the last minute. So I
Well,
think there's
well,
such a negative connotation with the word. But I would think like real estate is one of those professions, and of course there's tons of them, where you can't really procrastinate because, let's say, especially like with the way that the market is right now,
oh yeah,
if you're
yeah,
trying to if you have a client who's trying to put an offer in on a house, you can't
yeah.
just sit on that offer because, by
Nope.
that time you do finally get around to submitting it,
Yeah,
that seller could already have like 3 or 4 on the table. So it's like you
absolutely.
got to be like diligent, and that's something that I'm kind of learning as well as I've been kind of diving into the real estate stuff myself.
Absolutely, I agree 100%, man. And this is a question because I think when I first started out too, man, it was hard, man, because I was working a 9 to 5, right, and I was trying to be a realtor, but it wasn't like I was procrastinating. It was just my 9 to 5 was taking up the time in which I was trying to do stuff, man. But
See, that's a good point then. So I think, like I said, there's this negative connotation with that word procrastination is, but I think there's a difference between like what you were talking about, which is more so prioritizing. Like you
yeah,
can work that 9 to 5, and then you still got time left over after you get off work to try to put in to whatever your
yeah,
second business is. But you just really you gotta be diligent with your time.
yeah,
Especially as you're trying to transition into ownership.
yeah,
Like those 24 hours are kind of sacred, and the way that you divvy it up
yep.
is going
There.
to lead to success or failure.
How do you utilize or maximize that small window of time that you got so that you are the most productive?
I think it really just comes down to, being disciplined, recognizing that you do have a finite amount of time to get certain things done. And for me, it's always crazy when I tell people like I'm more productive during the school year than I am over the summer. Like over the
Mm,
summer, things are a little bit more relaxed and like you have like the full day to yourself. I don't do well in that. Like I need structure. I need structure. in order for me to be, efficient as possible. So like if I'm teaching, I got my 9 to 5, I know I'm going to be in classroom this time. I know I got office hours at this time. I know during these hours is when I have my meetings. So then I know that, okay, I got a gap here. I got a gap there. So what I do is during those gaps, knowing that I only got maybe an hour to get some work done for my photography business, I'm going all in for that hour. For the real estate stuff, I might go all in on that hour researching properties and things like that. So it's like when you have those, little windows of opportunity, it's really up to you to take advantage of it and utilize it to your fullest potential.
Agreed, man. Agreed 100%.
But see, for you, your whole day is open.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the main reasons why I don't think I can ever be a full-time entrepreneur, just because I don't know. I just don't thrive in that environment.
I think that's really the hardest part, right? Is when you first start off being an entrepreneur, is you have no beginning time and you have no end time.
Yeah.
Right? And you have to build a routine. You got to build a system in place so that your whole day isn't wasted, right? So
Yeah.
I think, early on, dude, I used to tell my wife all the time, I don't know what to do. You try to make yourself busy, right? You wake up 5 o'clock in the morning, check emails that aren't really there, you do, you do things like that, right? But what happens is over time, those emails that you weren't checking, all of a sudden are there, right? And you really are checking emails. You really are taking conversations. You really are now going on showings, right? Not just riding around the house. Riding around the neighborhood. So I think that's the thing. You just got to give it time, right? In the beginning, it's all open. After a while, man, your day is truly full, right? And that's how you end up being productive. Now that you got a full day, what do you do with that time? How do you manage it? How do you organize it? How do you make it beneficial to you? And I think that's the challenge that people have once their day do become full.
I think that's one of the hardest things to do, is to find that balance, when you are trying to, straddle both sides of the fence. And, that's tough, man.
Yeah. I got a real question for you, right? Now, you can answer it, right, or not answer it. But what happens if your side business ultimately takes up more time or, requires more time of you, right? And you also are tripling your income on the side, right? Do you then get rid of your 9 to 5, right? Or do you keep it?
So I think for that's actually a really good question. I think that the everyday person would probably, move away from that 9 to 5 and transition to, that side business that's bringing them in more income, and then it gives you the flexibility that you want. But then I think it goes back to the person. Now, that's why I say the everyday person. For me, I don't think I'd ever want to leave my 9 to 5, just because I really do enjoy what I do. And I think we were talking about this earlier, when we talked off mic. I think with your businesses that you operate, one of the most important things that you do is you should be getting fulfillment, for your life out of these things that you're putting your time into. So for me, with my 9 to 5, I get a lot of, fulfillment, intrinsic value from helping students, working at the community college, teaching. That's what I enjoy doing. But then my side businesses also feeds other areas, of my life. My photography business offers the creativity outlet. It allows me to, express myself that way and, capture images and things like that. And then the real estate, it really just kind of feeds my competitive drive. I want to get out there and I want to make sales and, I want to try to convince somebody to buy something, so I think everything that I do business wise provides some type of fulfillment, so it's not just moving through the motions, in your everyday life. And I know for you said with your 9 to 5, you just didn't like it. So you was itching to start your own stuff.
I think that's the thing, right? For me, and then Brittany said it one day when we were all on the call, not on the call, when you guys are out here, there's no job that really can fill my needs, right? Mm-hmm. So especially like when you're an entrepreneur, and like you're an entrepreneur as well, but like if you want to work for yourself, like the last job I had was probably the best job in the world. Like, I mean, you play pool, you know, they got a full stack kitchen. I mean, you walk around the freedom. I mean, you didn't feel like you were at work.
Yeah.
But when you always want to own your own, there's no job that can fulfill that void.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to cut you off because
no, and you know, there's no job that could fill that void. So for me, it doesn't matter how good the job is. I want my own. I want to go out on my own, and you know, working for myself has always been that dream of mine. So I don't want to have a boss. I don't need somebody to report to. I don't like being micromanaged. I don't need that. I want to make my own legacy, build it, and pass it down to my children. So that has always been the goal for me.
And that's one of the main reasons why I really enjoy these conversations that you and I have, because we do have like the different perspectives on things, but we also are so aligned on other things, you know, as well. Now, just because we were talking about procrastination and, you know, we're talking about business ownership, I wanted to kind of flip the question and look at, instead of waiting to the last minute to do stuff for your business, has there been any situations where you kind of like jumped the gun? Like and I'll give an example.
Okay.
So I bought something for my photography business that I was like, okay, I can get this. This is going to be another thing that I can start offering. You know,
right.
I looked it up. Like I see people making money doing it. It was a 360 camera, you know? So
okay.
I don't want to say what it was.
But you bought that? You bought it?
I had bought one.
Oh, wow, man. I didn't know you bought one.
Yeah. So I had that 360 camera. As soon as I jumped into real estate, I was like, yeah, man, I'm going to be a real estate photographer too, you know, because I just need another hat to wear, right? So I'm going to be a real estate photographer. I'm going to get these 360s and start doing these virtual tours for these properties. And I overestimated the demand for that service in my area. So I'm reaching out to a bunch of realtors like, hey, you know, I'm offering this service, you know, are you interested? Oh, no, I'm good at this time, you know, thank you. And like I did that for like weeks and still got nobody to bite. So now I was sitting here with this 360 camera that I'm not getting any use out of. But it's, you know, I felt like I kind of jumped the gun with it. So I was like, that's kind of like the opposite of procrastination in a sense where like you're rushing things, rushing your decisions.
Yeah, you know what? In situations like that, I think it's, you know, just to kind of piggyback off what you said, I think it's just best to kind of fill out your market, right? Before you rush, right? See if the demand is there, right? It's kind of like I mean, you're an econ major, you know, right? It's making sure the demand is there before, you know, because I mean, you would never, like McDonald's would never open up a McDonald's, you know, on a corner where there's no traffic or, you know, anywhere that someone will come. Same thing with anything that you do in business. Like, I think most times we, you know, we got in our head what we want to do, but what we want to do might not always align with what's practical.
Exactly. Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself. And that's one of the hard lessons that I had to learn. And I'm trying to think if normally, like with my business purchases, I'm super conservative. Like I don't, you know, upgrade equipment unless I absolutely need to. But I was like, you know what? I see that this is a service. I don't see too many people offering it. And I was like, man, I could really make some money off of it. But like you said, I should have did my due diligence, you know, even further and probably reached out to the people ahead of time before even investing the money and purchasing the equipment that was just kind of sitting on the shelf that I could not use.
But see, I think that's the great thing about being an entrepreneur, right? Is we make those mistakes, right? And then we can kind of guide the next entrepreneur and tell them, hey, look, you need to do this, you need to do that, so that they don't make those same pitfalls that we made. But I think that's just a part of the journey, right? Is trying out new things, seeing what works. Because even though it might not work in that market, you can go to another city over where that same product might be in demand.
Exactly. And I took that thing right back, you know.
I don't blame you, man. That's what's up.
It was like a 45-day return policy. I got it back on the 45th day.
There we go.
And see, that's why I was talking about like rushing my decision, because like I was contemplating like those last 5 days, like, man, do I want to keep this and then, you know, just, you know, eventually hopefully the market opens up, or do I return it and then use that money for something else. And I think that's a decision that a lot of business owners are constantly going through, because there's always going to be a new piece of equipment that's going to allow you to do whatever you're doing more efficiently, but you're still going to have to pay that price tag for it.
Yeah.
So go for it.
Now you mentioned something about, you could use the money elsewhere in the business, right? Now, I guess this is switching gears, but this is always a question that I have for like every entrepreneur, right? Is when you get paid through your business, what do you do with the money, right? Do you take the money and do you buy what you want because you earned the money, or do you put the money right back into the business?
Sometimes I think it depends on where you're at as an entrepreneur. At one point in life, the money that I was making from my photography business was supplementing some income, for, other things that I wanted to do, like in my personal life. Now I got into the point that the money that comes into the business goes back into the business. Like you want to have reserves saved up, just in case there is something that you need, or, a piece of equipment goes down and you need to replace it. So for me, like with my photo booth, I do 4x6 prints. If my printer goes down, the service that I'm offering, I can't offer. So you always need to have money in like the reserve that can be used to replace stuff, or if you see something that's, could be an asset to the business, to be able to go acquire it. But for some people too, and like I said, I've been in both situations. Sometimes you need that extra money that's coming into your business to fund life.
yeah. And then I think that's the hard part, right? Is like, I know for me, even me, when I first started off, real estate, whether it was real estate or photography, whatever, you want to use the money, right? You're like, man, I worked hard for this money, right? And I want to put it into my account, and especially if you made a good profit, thousands of dollars, you want to use that in your personal spending. But here's the problem that a lot of entrepreneurs face, and this is the same thing that I face, is you want to keep feeding the beast, right? You don't want to take food out of the company's mouth before it get a chance to grow. So, sometimes you got to kind of kill that instant gratification, and sometimes you might need it, and it's okay to take it if you might need it. But if you just want to go out and buy your new, some new Jordans or anything like that, that's probably the wrong move to make, because ultimately the best thing that you can do is to put money back in the business, right? You don't want to suck the business dry, because you have nowhere to go, you have nowhere to scale. You might get an opportunity, like you said. I might need the printer to print out a thousand photos, and you don't have the money or the resources to do it. Your business could die off in a matter of days or weeks.
Ooh, that's true, but that's a lot easier said than done for you, because I know you don't spend money at all.
Nah.
So
nah. You know what? No, I take that back. No, I do spend money. It's just I'm real mindful of the money that comes out of the business, because I got goals, man. I got goals.
That's what I'm saying, and I think it goes back to like whatever, having that business plan, or this not the idea, but like you have a vision for where you want your business to be in a certain amount of years. And I know that you're very methodical, I would say, in like your planning and your execution. So you're thinking like 2 years down the road. But a lot of people don't have that long-term mindset,
But do you think that harms the business or the person? Like if you're only thinking about, because if you look at most business plans, they look at a 5-year projection, right? But if you're only thinking for like today, right now, next month, could that kill your business?
We both know people, like even in the photography realm, who always have the latest equipment and a lot of stuff that's not necessarily needed. So, and their business might be thriving. So they could be buying unnecessary stuff, but, it's helping them. So I think it's really to each its own. For me, I'm always on the side of being a little bit more conservative with the spending. And I only upgrade my equipment when I absolutely need to, or if I'm invested in something that I think is going to be a really good avenue for future revenue streams. Like for my photography business, like I said, I do mostly photo booths, but then also have my drone. Like I bought my drone last year, and I haven't gotten the business that I wanted out of it, but then also haven't put the time into it that I needed to market it. So I think that's another pitfall that some entrepreneurs fall into. Like, the vision could be there and everything lines up, but you might be stretching yourself too thin to the point where you can't put in the work that's needed to really realize that vision for whatever you have, for like that additional things that you can offer through your business. So I don't know, man. I'm a work in progress.
You and me both, man. You and me both.
One of the other questions that I wanted to throw out to you, just to kind of get your take on it, is how do you, because like you said, you have like your visions for your business. How do you determine when it is time to upgrade equipment or upgrade certain things in your business? I guess it's a little bit more difficult in like the real estate stuff, but or is that applicable?
It is. I wouldn't necessarily call it a upgrade. Upgrade. It's more so like just like kind of leveling up a little bit. So for me, for example, right, I do a lot of cold calling. I do a lot of text messaging to like for prospect clients. Once I get to a point where I feel like I'm exhausted or I got enough money, then you start outsourcing, right? And I think that's the level up for me is, okay, it's time to hire somebody. Yeah. So I think as a business owner or entrepreneur, it wouldn't necessarily always be an upgrade in equipment, but an upgrade in the human capital. So
I like that. I like that because as you start, and we talk about this in our econ courses, you know, principles of microeconomics and macroeconomics, we talk about the opportunity cost. You know, you could definitely do the work, but your time might be better spent, you know, cold calling or going out and meeting people and, you know, actually getting some face-to-face time with individuals rather than doing some of the monotonous things that are associated with your business. So yeah, that makes sense. Like, you know, as you're making more, you spend your money in a way that allows you to have a little bit more time, I would say, to be efficient.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I think the more money, and I think it comes back to a money thing, right? Because I mean, when you're an entrepreneur, you starting off and you're essentially broke. Your business at ground zero, right? But once you get to a point where your business is thriving and it's able to feed itself and, you know, reproduce itself and make its own money, then you got to start thinking about, okay, you got to take yourself out the business, right, to be able to work on the business. So I think that's the most important thing, is hiring people that's able to do the jobs that you were doing before just as good as you were doing it, so that you can kind of focus more so on building the business long term.
Did you say you have to take yourself out of the business to work on the business? See, that should have been the quote of the week, man. Like, where was that at the top of the podcast?
Right.
But that's so true. That is so true. And I think that's the main reason why a lot of companies, they hire these, what are they called? People that come and look at your business and, you know, tell you where your strengths, your weaknesses Consultants, yeah. So they do like those SWOT analysis. They identify your strengths, they identify your weaknesses, they identify your opportunities, and they identify the threats to your business. So a lot of times, if you're inside it, it's hard to see those things that are going on, you know, because you kind of have like that limited view. But an outsider can, you know, come in and see all the cracks, you know, in the business. I mean, that's real good. That's real good. I know, like, for myself, when I was looking at upgrading equipment, and I'll use my foldable booth business, I got to a point where the printer that I was using, man, it'd take like 50 seconds to print an image, right? And that's cool if you're doing like small events. But eventually I worked my way up to an event for a hospital. We had about 1,000 people there. You know, this was a couple of years back. You're not going to be able to be how do I want to say it? With that many people, with that many people, there's no way that I was going to be able to be efficient with the printer that I had. What I ended up doing was I bought 3 of the same printers, you know, so I had them all running at the same time. But then that was a lot more setup time for me and tear down time. So eventually it's like, okay, I need to upgrade the printer. So now I bought a printer, like spent, you know, like $500 on a printer, but it prints the images in like 9 seconds. Never had a problem ever since then. So it's like, as your business is growing, I think like the equipment that you're using or the services that you're maybe need to outsource is growing as well, to the point where you need to start making those decisions. But it goes back to like making sure you're not jumping the gun. When I first started, I had no need for a $500 printer, right? But as the business grew, so did the needs for the business.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's just I think once you, like I say, once you start to, run through a burnout, what you were doing, because now you're getting better, right? Mm-hmm. You're getting better, so you're cutting time as far as your services, right? I think you made a point last time. It's like, when you hire a contractor or something, you're not paying for, how long it takes them to do it. Or how did it, what you were saying about that?
Yeah, my father-in-law said, like, when you hire somebody to change the locks on the door, even though they're able to do it in like maybe 5-10 minutes, you're not paying for the time that it takes them to do it. You're paying them for the experience and the knowledge that they've accumulated over the years that allows them to be able to change that lock in 5 to 10 minutes.
Exactly. So I think that goes right back to, being able to upgrade. Over time, you get better, right?
Yeah.
Your businesses grow. Your clientele base grows as well. So you can't, and you're a one-person team, right, when you first starting off. But you're not always going to be that, and you can't think like that. So what happens is, like you said, you got to get faster equipment, more people on your team to reproduce what it is that you're already doing.
Exactly. Yeah, man. Let's I think that's a good place to stop, just because we could probably keep talking about this, because I got tons of other questions, but I want to be cognizant of the time. So we'll probably have to do like a follow-up to this one, or maybe do like a IG live or something, get other people's thoughts. So for the listeners and the viewers, we're both curious to know, like, how do you feel about procrastination? Are you a procrastinator or are you not a procrastinator?
Right.
And we kind of talked about like the ways that people learn. I'm curious if more people are audio learners like myself, they're more hands-on like you, or if they're visual learners. So give us some feedback, leave comments below or message us and let us know what your thoughts are.
And that's been another episode of the Wolfman and Doctors podcast. Whatever you guys are listening on or streaming on, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below.